In this module, we shift from building Azure Dedicated HSMs to actually running them in production. You'll learn how to design partitions, control users and roles, protect keys with backup and recovery, monitor health and activity, and manage the full operational lifecycle in enterprise environments. So far, you've mastered the foundations: what HSMs are for, how keys live and die, and how Azure security services fit together. You've compared HSM options, practiced with managed HSM, and designed dedicated HSM deployments. Now we focus on what really matters over time: operating, monitoring, and governing dedicated HSMs in a consistent, controlled way. Provisioning a dedicated HSM just gets the hardware online. From here, you're effectively running your own security appliance. You'll define partitions, create users, and enforce strict role separation for admins, crypto operators, and auditors. You'll also design backup and disaster recovery, set up monitoring and alerting, and capture logs and evidence. The end goal is clear: repeatable runbooks that keep keys available, protected, and fully auditable throughout their lifecycle. Think of partitions as separate security containers inside one HSM. Each partition owns its own keys, users, and crypto operations, so a compromise or mistake in one area doesn't spill into another. You can carve them by application, by environment like prod versus test, or by business unit. The key is aligning partitions with risk, compliance, and ownership. Too many or poorly chosen partitions add complexity and blur separation of duties instead of strengthening it. In HSM administration, not all users are equal. Security officers own the overall environment. They define policy, create accounts, and approve high-impact changes. Crypto officers manage keys and objects, handling their lifecycle and enabling applications. Crypto users simply consume those keys for approved operations. Each persona should map to a real job role, and accounts should be individual, not shared. Role separation ensures no single person can control your HSM lifecycle end-to-end. Design accounts so platform admins manage infrastructure, while security or application teams use keys but can't reconfigure the HSM itself. Assign only the minimum rights needed at each partition and role. Avoid shared admin logins and break glass passwords. Then schedule regular reviews to remove stale accounts and tighten privileges over time. Quorum controls apply a two keys to launch model to your HSM operations. No single admin can initialize a partition, restore a backup, recover keys, or change policies alone. Instead, several independently authenticated people must approve before the system proceeds. This greatly reduces insider abuse, simple mistakes, and the impact of a compromised admin account. Effective design sets realistic quorum sizes and documents emergency procedures so recovery remains fast but controlled. Administrative access isn't a one-time event. It has its own life cycle. Access begins with a formal request, backed by business justification. It only becomes active after explicit approval and documented provisioning. Once granted, usage is monitored and periodically reviewed to confirm it's still needed and used correctly. When someone changes roles or leaves, their access is revoked immediately. Every step is recorded to support audits, investigations, and ongoing compliance. For a dedicated HSM, treat backup as an ongoing lifecycle, not a one-off task. Start by defining scope. Which keys, partitions, and configuration items are truly critical, and what business processes they support. Then, set backup frequency based on how often keys change and how much data loss the business can tolerate. Ensure only authorized, well-trained personnel handle backups, following documented procedures. Finally, store backups securely and regularly test restores to prove you meet your RTO and RPO targets. HSM backups are your disaster recovery lifeline, but they can also be a shortcut for attackers. Protect them like high-value keys. Keep them in secure, tightly controlled locations. Require more than one person to use them. Log every handoff and action. And make sure the secrets, cards, or tokens themselves are encrypted and physically and logically guarded. Backups only matter if they restore cleanly when you're under pressure. Start with a clear test plan and a controlled environment. Retrieve the backup, run the restore, and verify everything: data integrity, partitions, keys, policies, and that applications can actually reach what they need. Capture results, document any gaps, and assign remediation with named owners and deadlines. Then schedule restore drills regularly, so recovery becomes a routine, proven capability rather than a guess. Disaster recovery runbooks turn chaos into a checklist. You define exactly what happens when a device fails. A region goes dark, the network breaks, or key operators are unavailable. Each scenario needs named, people, quorum rules, required access, and a clear recovery order. Plan region placement for latency and data residency, and design application failover to follow the HSM. Finally, rehearse these runbooks often, and update them as your architecture and business requirements evolve. Monitoring a dedicated HSM is more than checking if the device is online. You want a continuous stream of admin actions, access attempts, device health, and crypto operations feeding into your log platform and SIE. From there, define alert thresholds for failed logins, configuration changes, and volume spikes. Then correlate HSM alerts with Azure Network, Identity, and Application Telemetry. That correlation is what turns isolated events into clear, actionable incidents. Operational excellence with HSMs means you can show, not just claim, that controls are working. Every operational activity should leave an evidence trail. Change tickets for configuration and role updates, approvals for quorum actions, and logs for monitoring and security alerts. Backups should have documented restore tests, and access reviews need clear outcomes and owners. Map each artifact to a specific control and policy, and store it in auditor-friendly form, so audit preparation becomes retrieval, not reconstruction. Dedicated HSMs only scale effectively when administration is controlled, responsibilities are clearly separated, and quorum rules are enforced. Backups, restores, and disaster recovery preserve critical crypto services. Monitoring, change tracking, and strong evidence close the loop. In the next module, we'll deepen this with logging, day-to-day operations, and common pitfalls to avoid.